technology. So does Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is saying we're gonna revolutionize our military. And he had Lockheed and Boeing both yesterday.
Yep.
In his Trump Tower estate, which, by the way, I had a chance to visit last weekend. It was awesome with all the armed guards in front. Well done. But he has these people, and he says, look, Lockheed, the F-35, it's way out of control from a cost perspective. Get it right. Boeing, you want 2 new 747s part of Air Force One? Cut the cost. Get right. Don't jam us. This is the kind of conversation that's going to not only help from a business perspective, but it's going to help us compete militarily, because these people are going to be on watch on what they sell to the government.
Yeah, and that's something you see with government all the time. You guys have been in the business world forever. And one thing I see a lot of in government contracts, be it at a sewer line going in or an office building for government being built, you see these contingency fees, right? When they budget out, they'll put in 20% contingency fee. Listen, man, if you are the winner of a contract with a private company, you're going to perform that deliverable for that price. In some cases a contingency, but normally not. You're on the hook for doing that. And I don't know why the government allows these giant contingency fees. Do your homework, put in a bid that's realistic, and perform it. So let's say the F-35. What's with the open checkbook and it's $5 billion over budget? How do you become $5 billion over budget?
Yeah, unless, the only reason in business that you get away with cost creep or, cost creeping upwards would be if the contractor or the government, the customer, changes the statement of work.
That's right.
Right? And so if the government is truly not changing the statement of work, you have no out.
Right.
Yeah, the contingency needs to be make the product on time and on budget, and the contingency is you'll get paid.
Yes.
If those things don't happen, then you're going to get paid less.
Yeah. And I think that's what's come with, what people in government think of as the open pocketbook. Oh, all right, we'll pay 20%. No, we're not going to pay you a 20% contingency fee. You should have been aware of that possibility of something going wrong. That's on you.
Absolutely.
It's not on the government. And I'm glad to see that hopefully there's going to be a cleaning out, a purge in Washington, D.C. of getting rid of the people who have just been given the blank checks to these contractors, be it in the military or be it in aviation or something else. You know what I mean? So I want to make sure that happens. It boggles my mind to see that kind of thing
Well,
happens.
it's back to the expectations and the accountability. And what we're seeing, again, we don't know anything. The guy he's not in office yet. But what we do see is when you look at, is there smoke? Will there be fire? When you look at the smoke about the people he's put in front of us as his cabinet, it leads me to believe that we're going to be accountable for what we do. And that's pleasing to me.
Yeah.
Now, they got to do it.
Right.
Okay, let's not celebrate. The guy's not in office yet. But right now, what he's telling me with the people he's putting in front of us, and there's some dogs in here, right? I mean, there's going to be some shuffling. But, a guy like Wilbur Ross, who I've had a chance to do business with in the past, in my old days in the automotive business, the guy's brilliant. Now, is he a cutthroat? Yeah, he's a cutthroat. He's a businessman. But he's ethical, and he's going to do the right thing, and he's going to be accountable for what he does. And the people that work in his department are going to be accountable too. Guaranteed.
Yeah. And, so he is doing those things. It makes you wonder, is he going to go through? And one of the reasons I thought he was talking to Romney a lot was not necessarily for the Secretary of State. I was wondering if he was going to look at Romney and say, General Accounting Office, because we're going to start getting rid of departments, and maybe this is something he's good at. Now, I think the backlash has been so bad that he's not going to touch Romney other than maybe call him up for advice occasionally. But, will we see the Department of Education at the federal level get smaller under DeVos, right? Will she make it smaller and return everything back to the states like she's saying? I hope that happens.
Well, her record says that she will, because she's about, now again, folks in the DEA, don't listen right now. But what she's about vouchers, which the jury's out. Okay, they don't work. That's clear. But they don't not work either. So there's the truth somewhere in the middle. She's also for charter schools. So when you look at the things that she's for, again, it's back to the accountability. If you want to be part of the solution in Detroit and you want to be a charter school, you deliver, you go to business.
Yeah.
You don't continue to get funded year after year after $515 million we just gave to the Detroit education system.
Yeah.
Alone?
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's money we threw away because it's not going to be, there's no accountability there.
Yeah. Where there's no accountability.
Well, clearly, we have principals who keep going to jail for
that's right.
taking money.
They're right. They hit the easy button, Joe.
Yeah.
Because it's easy at Staples to get your money, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I tell you what I do like is the school of choice, because I look like out here where we live. We live in the Brighton area, the South Lyon, the Whitmore Lake, the Pinckney schools. And Brighton is doing very well as a school of choice because I think all their slots are filled up every year, right? There is no openings left in Brighton because people like, even down by me, Whitmore Lake used to be a terrible school.
Yeah.
It's gotten much better. And that's because there's competition. All these districts, Pinckney, South Lyon, Brighton, Whitmore Lake, have all now gone school of choice. And it's up to each of those school districts to offer something better, something more unique, perhaps.
Compete.
They're competing.
Well, sure. If you look at Brighton, I'm not completely up to date on it, but a few years ago, I think they added, Hour Zero, where kids who wanted to be able to offer even more AP classes at the high school. So they offered AP classes, and they added an extra hour early in the morning to have a bunch of classes fill up with kids who were ambitious to learn. When you make that kind of offering to the people, they're going to come.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are going to come. But I think the other thing that hopefully we get to, we talk about the loans, and we're getting on tangents here, but we talk about the student loan dynamic and just going to college and all the rest of it. That's not the answer for everybody, just to go to college. It's to get a skill. Yeah. If that's education, that's great. How about the vocational dynamics? That's got to be part of this solution when we talk about education, whether it's vouchers, whether it's ability to move outside of your city to go to school, like people in Detroit do today. You can go to Sterling Heights School and go to class if you want. But also, are we going to start developing shop class again? Are we going to start putting charter schools that have a trade dynamic to them? It's absolutely something we need to do, and not hammering a nail. Right. We're talking about the skills of the future.
Yeah, and if you look at best practices, okay, and as business people, we looked at lessons learned from the past, we look at best practices amongst our competition, and we find the best way to do things. There are some things that the Germans do very well in their education system. They don't try to make everyone go down the same path. They have a clearly defined path. There's a vocational path, and there's the gymnasiums, the upper high schools for the college-bound kids. And they do a great job of training people for vocations. Yeah. And they identify it early, and yet, they misidentify on occasion, okay? But they do it right, and you end up with a lot of very trained people in the vocations.
Yeah, and I think that's something even from when we were in high school. Think about the kids that went to Voc Ed when we were in high school back in the 70s, right? Yeah. They sent the kids that couldn't make it any other way to Voc Ed. And so you wonder why 30 years later, your roads and your hospitals and your buildings and your trades are not good. Because why? You shoved all the people who had the worst inclination into vocational trades.
Right.
And then you wonder 30 years later why things aren't as good or why a road can't get built right. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with a good trade, be it electrical, plumbing, or anything else. I can tell you, plumbers make as much as a good plumber makes as much as an attorney.
Yeah, have you tried to change the oil on your car?
That's right. So
these guys are making hundreds of dollars an hour.
Yeah, you need to change that stigma in the junior high and high school that, there's nothing wrong with metal shop. There's nothing wrong with the mechanics class. There's nothing wrong with any of those vocational trades because those are necessary. And what does bother me is the fact that in the trades, vocational trades, the painting, the drywall, the carpentry, the bricklaying, all those, you used to be able to make a good living as a carpenter, as a painter. And I painted my way through college, right? And you guys painted too, right?
Absolutely.
And at some point, the immigration got to such a level that you could no longer make that. I remember back when we all painted together, and I had that company, I used to get $150 to paint a 2-bedroom apartment, right? Yeah. Labor.
Right.
And when Some Mexican guys came in and did it for 90. I could no longer afford to pay the guys that worked with me to do that.
Absolutely.
So it came back to what? Immigration.
Yeah.
You know, too many people for not enough jobs. And unless you control that border, you're going to have people come in here, and having an illegal immigrant work a job is bad enough, right? But the money they take and ship back out of the country, that's reducing our own GDP, right?
Yeah. Just go. I invite the listeners when they're on their beautiful vacation in San Diego to drive 20 minutes south and go down to the border and go on I-5 and look to the left at 8 o'clock in the morning and watch the traffic jam from the border all the way past San Diego into Los Angeles every day. And then switch it at 5 o'clock, same drill. More people are coming in by mountains than are going out.
Yeah.
And that touches some of the point. And they're doing the low skill trade type stuff, right? They're not pipe fitters, right? These guys are painting, doing the things, and God bless them, right? You want to work, come work, but do it legally. Do it according to the system. But train our people for the jobs of tomorrow, the sophisticated mechanics, the different computer skills that you need from hardware and software. These things are very viable trades that we can start teaching our people instead of how to accumulate loan debt.
Right. And that's one of the things I hope Trump also addresses, the H-1B, because what was the story? They took away our manufacturing jobs, shipped them out in NAFTA, and said, we're going to retrain you into technology and computers and all those high-skilled jobs.
Oops.
Right. All right. So they did that. And all of a sudden now, and we've each seen it in the companies that we've worked for in the last few years, all of a sudden they can bring a guy in from India who's got a degree, and he may be a very smart, hard-working guy, granted. But instead of paying an American with the same skills $80,000, they're going to pay him $60,000.
Period.
So the H-1Bs are now screwing us out of our high-tech jobs that you retrain us for out of manufacturing.
That's right.
You know, that's just aggravating to me. What do you expect us to do as Americans? Be on the dole? Be unemployed? Die?
Well, that's in the last 8 years. That was the picture moving forward. It was like, okay, well, we got the unemployment rate under control, 5 or 6%, but we got the underemployment roll huge, and we got 4 million more people in poverty as a result in the last 8 years. That's not the country I want to be part of. I want to be part of the country that when people want to work and they're trained and skilled to work. And that's what we need to do, and stop shipping these jobs out, start investing in ourselves and getting the skills that we need to be competitive out in the workforce.
Yeah. Now, TPP's dead. I think we know that. There's no way it's going to get past Trump, even if it managed to get through the Senate and the House. What do you think is going to happen with NAFTA? Does Trump's been talked about it? He said he's going to do it. He's going to renegotiate NAFTA. What do you think, Joe? What's going to happen with NAFTA?
That's going to be a real interesting one to watch that roll out, right? I mean, if you go back to, Ross Perot, in my mind, nailed it. He said, listen to that large sucking sound from the South, right? And I mean, could the guy have been more right? And here was a billionaire businessman.
That's right.
Who knew exactly what was going to happen.
And made waves when he was running. Big waves.
Was winning the election
Absolutely.
in September.
That's right.
Okay. Before he dropped out for some mysterious reason. Okay. So yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm watching it closely.
It'll soften. I mean, you're not going to abolish that, okay? But you're going to soften it, and it's going to be different rules. And I think it's all part of the whole strategy and dynamics about how do we get corporate wealth back in this country? How do we get take care of our own? How do we also take care of our neighbors and allies at the same time? And it's going to be a mix of all those things. It's just not going to be, hey, because of NAFTA, you can make all your cars in Mexico and bring them back in here scot-free. That's not going to fly.
Well, I think what's been kind of interesting, though, is even since NAFTA was implemented, there has been somewhat of a move to have manufacturing in the southern United States. If you look at what's happened in Alabama and Texas and South Carolina, for example, there has been, major auto plants go into the southern United States, despite the fact that NAFTA existed. And I think I think we texted each other about this recently, Gary, if the United States makes ourselves a little more competitive on the corporate tax rates and all these, on these issues, then we don't have to